hapon sa tanan. I will share some thoughts, promising thoughts on the sustainability of Philippine marine biodiversity and food security. So by sustainability, we mean the 17 United Nations Global Sustainability Goals. There are 17, but we should keep in mind that they're all interrelated and inseparable. But my talk, as in the previous speakers of this plenary 3, is most related to SDG 14, Life Below Water. But before anything else, I'd like to flash some basic concepts on the primary dimensions of sustainable development. These are non-negotiable primary dimensions, including safeguarding long-term ecological sustainability, satisfying basic human needs, promoting inter- and intra-generational equity. In order to attain true sustainable development, we might have to look at the economic, social, ecological triad of circles. These three circles need to overlap, meaning they are transdisciplinary, and I would like to emphasize inclusivity as an outcome of the synergy between social and economic dimensions. So previous speakers have described Philippine coastal profile, or most of us are familiar with the coastal profile. The picture in the slide is our Philippine map surrounded with the different types of lines which signify our territorial claims. I want you to focus on the yellow dash and 2 dots line, as it encloses our exclusive economic zone. And if we are to consider our EEZ and all other claims, we can actually redefine our country as a very big body of water with 7,641 islands. Meaning we should perhaps veer our thoughts and creativity on the vastness of our seas and marine waters. So our country can be the center of marine biodiversity, but our country is also a hotspot of many issues that threaten our marine biodiversity and food security. So I have listed several, but I will only be focusing on the lower 3 because our next speaker will talk about climate change. So I'll focus on illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, inequitability, and perhaps international poaching. So on the first issue, Dr. Campos highlighted the major issue of overfishing. For me, one of the reasons the issue arises is the fact that few understand the meaning of carrying capacity as applied to fisheries. From my ecology course, carrying capacity K means the density above which a population cannot be expected to increase. So if applied to fisheries, carrying capacity is the intersection point of mortalities and births of individuals in a fish population or any marine population for that matter. So that if fishing, which represents mortality, reaches to the point of depletion, one should not expect births. Also, Dr. Campos emphasized the future of the fish stock depends on the number of individuals born from the parents and recruit to the populations. If we see this graph here, on the upper right, you have series of recruitment depending on the combination of births and dying. So that the picture on the upper right side showed that the highest recruitment is the right combination of births and dying. There must be an ideal number of deaths and births in a population to sustain the population. So if we plot the net recruitment and population density, the combination generates a dome-shaped figure with the top of the dome as the optimum level of net recruitment. So I borrowed one of the slides of Dr. Campos, and somehow there must be an ideal number of new or future recruits to sustain the fishery of a stock. So if you look at the red dot, that is the most critical point because recruitment numbers below the red dot means the future number of recruits will not ensure a sustained size of the population to perpetuate or continuously replace the fishery stock. So according to a famous Filipino fishery scientist, Dr. Armada, we need fish to produce fish. So this series of pictures are somehow very similar to the one shown by Dr. Campos. So essentially, these are catch rates. So over time, against the y-axis, annual harvest or catch per unit effort. But I want you to focus on the declining red line. No? So for example, the one on the top is the demersal fisheries. This was shown earlier. The one on the bottom, the small pelagic. So pababa siya. And then the one on the top is the coral reef fishes. Pababa pa rin since 1950s. Siguro by now, the same level pa rin yung catch rates for coral reef fish. In Manila Bay, this is a result of the work of the National Fisheries Research Development Institute. By 2015, as to demersal fish, 10% na lang yung nandun sa Manila Bay compared to 1947 na data. For invertebrates, the same picture is shown. This is for the blue swimming crab in the Visayan Sea. We have declining catch over time. For pinnate shrimps, pababa pa rin in the Visayan Sea. This one is sea urchin. And this is for the sea cucumbers. So essentially, before 1990, there was not much interest in sea cucumbers, but 1990 onwards, there was a sudden demand for export of sea cucumbers. Then we have the declining red line. But so essentially, those red lines actually is a phenomenon in fisheries, which I learned from Daniel Pauly. He called it the shifting baseline syndrome. So you have on the y-axis something good, something of a good thing like fish, and then the x-axis time. Essentially, pababa yung linya as we saw in the series of examples, and along the way, we have the option, we have three options. So either to rebuild, maintain, or continuously deplete our stocks. So, but according to Dr. Campos, there will be a point of no recovery or the tipping point. So it's really up to us if we continue to deplete our fish stocks. And one of the recommendations of the United Nations, FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, is to take the approach of the ecosystem approach to fisheries management, where we should not only confine on the fish itself, but all the interconnections associated with the fish. So I'm a biologist, so I'm more into the biotic components, but fisheries is also driven by market forces, climate, and different institutions in the country, national government offices, and so on, and also the abiotic components. So this might be a very good approach to managing our fish stocks. And the ecosystems approach seems to be very promising because I had one experience. I live in Dipolog City, but I work in Iligan City, where I requested the vendor to open the stomach of juvenile yellowfin tuna, and to my surprise, I saw 4 individuals of sardines. And this was after the closure of the 3-month closure in the Zamboanga Peninsula. So it was really very inspiring. Somehow, if we manage our small pelagic fish like sardines, we are also managing the large, more high-value species of fish. So Dipolog is within Sulusi, close to Sulusi. And this is, if you see the enclosure there, that's the Bohol Sea on the right side and the Sulu Sea on the left side. So these seas are very important for me because there are so many things that are happening there that are worth conserving or protecting. So for example, Dr. Villanoy's, academician Villanoy discovered the Bohol jet during the northeast monsoon. This is a very strong current south of Bohol Sea. And close to Iligan Bay, we have the Iligan Eddy, also reported by academician Villanoy. And previous scientists, other scientists like Dr. Gil Jacinto, Dr. Maclone, reported wave series from Palawan down to the Sulu archipelago. We call it the SAGE. And if the sage can be very strong, it can damage coastal communities. Also reported by Dr. Villanoy's group is the Northeast Monsoon Coastal Upwelling event, where you have biological enrichment during Amihan, so in Butuan Bay, close to Camiguin, and also the northern Zamboanga Peninsula. Also, this enrichment were reported by our Chinese colleagues na year-round, very high primary production in the Sulu Archipelago and also close to Sabah. And if you go to the Dipolog City Market, you can still see all these large pelagic species like sharks and the swordfish, the black marlin, and the sailfin marlin. About 4 to 5 species of tuna, dolphin fish can also be bought in the market. And of course, our tulingan, the oxys or the bonitos, the galungongs, and manta rays and whale sharks also are very common in Bohol Sea and Sulu Sea. And then perhaps because of the sardines, and also perhaps because of high abundance of zooplankton like copepods and krill, and of course your primary producers, the phytoplankton. So I thought maybe these ecosystems are worth, or this ecosystem is worth preserving to sustain our food security. I've not included the marine mammals, no, but marine mammals are also very important, very common also in Bohol and Sulu Seas. So MSUIT has created a Department of Marine Science, and probably we can make the Bohol and Sulu Seas as a main research and development initiative in the next 50 to 100 years. We will be proposing making some projects. We call it CREST. And then, of course, anchored on the ecological, socio-economic triad, where you have the importance of science and education, policy and governance, and empowerment to our local people. So the national government has actually implemented joint administrative orders to close fishing 3 months, more or less. For example, in 2011, the Zamboanga Peninsula, we have fishing closure November, December, January. And in Visayan Sea, 2013, 2015. So more or less this effort, which I think are precautionary approaches, would help marine ecosystems in these areas. Okay, we did close at the Zamboanga Peninsula to protect sardine fishery, because before 2011, before the closure, the industry has, the commercial fishing industry has really helped or knocked on the door of the government to have something to close the fisheries, so that, I mean, they're so afraid that they will also close business, no? So canning and so on. So there was closure in the Zamboanga Peninsula, and then the following year there was a sudden increase of sardine catch. But over the years, since the closure, the sardine stocks are quite variable. In fact, in 2016, the catch was quite low. So somehow with sardines being a plankton feeder is also connected to the variability of climate and availability of their food. So closure is not enough, definitely, and some marine scientists have done modeling that there has to be a combination of marine protected areas and harvest control. So in fact, harvest control alone can ensure sustainability of certain pelagic stocks. So it's good to combine marine protected areas and harvest control. So I'd like to also emphasize now we might develop our security and sustainability sa marine ecosystem, marine environment, but we should not forget inclusivity or helping our poor people elevate their economic status. For example, as presented by Dr. Academician Montaño, ARM and Zamboanga Region 9 produces so much seaweeds and earn a lot of revenue, but the highest poverty incidents are also in this region. So bakit? And probably, as suggested by Academician Montaño, the social sciences can actually work on this. No? But maybe we should not focus on this, on the seaweed industry, because according to academician Asansa, they have published a paper on the blue economy. We actually have more than 15 trillion piso worth of marine resources, by valuation. So that's how many times our national budget, which is 3 trillion. So if we invest on our marine environment, we can sustain our national economy. We can make Philippines rich again. And as to helping efforts to helping elevating, providing higher poverty benefits, according to the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, nature tourism and fish spillover seem to be very feasible to help our poor countrymen. Okay, so I'll not deal so much on poaching. We know that the red dots are, this is reported by Oceana, the red dots are lights from fishers, and they are now encroaching into our exclusive economic zone. Maybe the national government can do something. Okay, so I would like to just make final words na probably we should change something on our heart and mind if we want to go into sustainable development, because it's in our mind that will make things happen. So according to Albert Einstein, if you dream on something, that is something illogical, but you still have to dream. And then I'd like to share some words na, so if you also ponder at some point in time, in one day, think about the future generation. It's always a constant dialogue between now and the future in our minds. How do we ensure good life, quality life to our children's children? So anyway, according to that Proverbs, I did not memorize. We just have to guard our thoughts and minds. Okay. Be careful what you think, because your thoughts run your life. Thank you.